Exactly, and we're seeing Taxiivation on Team Sweet. Shout out to the Team Sweeters out there getting into game one here. I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. Both of these legends are my mains, and we're going to see a gauntlet mirror to start us off probably here, with both of them picking over to the gauntlets. Starting us off, no soft platforms to assist, and already starting off pretty aggressively. Taxiivation sidelight into down air. Start us off great here.
Okay, and of course, a good gauntlet ditto to start things off. A lot of pummeling happening here in the vein of neutral lights and down airs, but not quite a lead on either side here. Taxiivation trailing behind by just a little bit, but no one clearly having an edge over the other.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just the nature of gauntlet matchups. It's like who's really going to be going for those reads. First, Taxiivation opting to go for that insig, gets caught out with a weapon toss. Keith with a side sig. You got to be ready for that Val side sig. That's the first one of 2025 on stream here, and starting us off right. I know it's early for me, but not so much for Southeast Asia. You got to be awake for those.
Yeah, I mean, first side sig of the year that we've seen on stream, and there will be plenty more, right? I mean, it's just so good. Beautiful end sig coming out from Taxiivation here on the Wushang. Not gonna quite be enough to KO though, but Wushang also one of those legends who did get a couple of changes in the last balance patch as well. Kind of bring him in line a little bit, because you know he's just always been really good and still in that spot as we see the D-Light recovery unarmed from Taxiivation, bringing stock count back to even.
Yeah, I really like seeing Taxiivation close out that stock early there, not allowing Keith to get too much extra credit on the sword. Another side sig connects, stuck in a really bad spot is Taxiivation, going for another side sig there. Keith wanting to end the stock there, getting a side air from the wall, the down air to call out the dash jump back into center stage. Keith playing really preventative right now on the sword, even with taking so much space, also covering where Taxiivation wants to move to close in that space, and getting a little bit of a whip punish of his own. Downlight into sidelight for some nice damage, with Keith fighting back. Downlight into side air, closes out that stock, and Keith looks flawless right now on the sword.
Yeah, just swinging that nunchuck furiously around Taxiivation not seemingly having much of an answer here. The sword's kind of becoming a bit too much to deal with here. Back when they were having the gauntlet ditto, things did seem more in the favor, or at least even, more close to even, but now that Keith is on the sword, things have taken a turn for the worse for Taxiivation.
Yeah, I want to see more of the spear here maybe from Taxiivation, who has to make a stock comeback here and take less damage. I want something with a little bit more range, but right now fighting with the gauntlets in hand. Another down air from Keith, getting so many down airs on these dodge ins, the sidelight changes, making it that much more potent to go for in neutral, and getting more down airs for it. Keith getting so much mileage off of that move. And Taxiivation realizing that, trying to stay above Keith, but Keith is really good at using that recovery to position himself and line up more of those down airs, but picking up some gauntlets. Now Taxiivation sends Keith off stage, and not a great spot to be in on the wall versus gauntlets. Double exclamation point, finds his way back to the stage, but a recovery closes out that stock, and about 100 damage on Taxiivation here, so it's not completely over. But Keith, if he can pick up a sword, he's been real good at closing out these stocks.
Okay, let's see. Waiting for that spawn here. Taxiivation trying to get the star. There it is. Keith, once again with the sword in hand, going to be looking for a little bit of damage. The D-Light Sayer is definitely going to help. Another Sayer in the corner could be disastrous. These nairs are hurting as well. D-Light recovery on the table to secure the knockout. And it's going to be the Sayer instead. Gets the KO off of the side blast zone. And it's going to be KeithThePooPoo winning game one of Winners Finals.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, it just looked like all Keith when Keith was able to pick up that sword. Like, it just looked like the dominant weapon that we all expected coming into this new meta, with the sword being the best weapon. I think right now, you're seeing a lot of just control with it. The sidelights, because of the way it's changed, makes it so much more scary, and you're seeing a lot more panic dodges. Keith already adapting to it, going for a lot of those dashes forward, chase dodges forward, and then going for down airs to call out dodges. So all in all, you're seeing already the sword being very, very dominant. A really hard time for Taxiivation to get going on the gauntlets versus it.
3, 2,
Looks like they're still going to go ahead and just run it back to Small World's End, right? We're not going to have a change of scenery. Instead, the answer is going to be simply to play better and stronger. And we'll see if that's going to be enough. I mean, Taxiivation was able to bring it down to a final stock situation.
Yeah, it was definitely something where Taxiivation was kind of on the back foot, but never really out of the game. You can definitely see like one gauntlet string could have changed the entire course of that last game easily. But Keith right now is like, I'm not really interested in getting too aggressive on the gauntlets, realizing a weapon spawns right there, can definitely switch over the sword, but wants to get that early damage going on the gauntlets. And right now it's working out pretty even, like you were talking about earlier. Classic Wushang Enlight into the dash forward down sick to cover the cross up there.
Goes for the dash side air. It's not going to work. There we go. Taxiivation gets in there, but not able to get much conversion. Manages to snag Keith out of that jump, but Keith just wakes up with the end light, right? They're doing a good job of just responding
Nice coverage
with these wake ups and some of these hits, and it's doing the difference. But a side light recovery is going to be enough. Taxiivation does have the lead here. Little taunt for good measure. Kind of juice yourself up, give yourself a bit more of that momentum.
Yeah, you definitely want to run away with it because Keith is cycling over to the nunchucks on the sword now down air. Once again, calling out Taxiivasion's jump, a classic end light into the down sig once again. But Keith fighting back. Cider disarms Taxiivation. Down light into recovery. Not enough to KO, but now a weapon starve angle for Keith, who has Taxiivation in a terrible spot. GC down light has a mix up there. You see the dodge getting spent early from Tax. Keith able to punish it perfectly, and the sword looks flawless once again. Taxiivation, a lot of problems versus the sword right now.
We'll see what the answer is going to be here. I mean, Keith looking so good. Once again, getting these D-lights and converting. Gets the end light there as well. Doing a great job of fighting out the corner. Taxiivation trying to mix up with this movement. Dashing in, dash landing backwards. Trying to see if he can cross Keith up. But Keith has no fear. You can see that in that neutral sig he just went for. Didn't connect, but he's showing that he's confident.
Yeah, it's a lot of like very strong movement options from Keith that is making it so hard for Taxiivation to really get in a good spot. And like sends off stage, going for the side sig there, reading a low recovery, but even so, Taxiivation giving so much respect to the side sig gives Keith the opportunity to get back on stage in a dominant position. Tax now having to land versus sword, and landing right into that downlight cider, gets disarmed. A bad spot to be in. Downlight to try to get through, does get through, picks up a spear here, but the spear hasn't found as much output as I want to see. Hopefully we can find it here. Cider disarms Keith, but he picks up another sword, and it's back to troubled waters for Taxiivation.
Yeah, you can see, I mean, Taxiivation throwing out SIGs. There we go. I was wondering when we're going to see that side SIG there. Such a potent KO tool on Wushang that really rounds out the spear kit, right? You have that grounded KO option, but it doesn't matter. Keith comes back with invulnerability, grabs a pair of gauntlets, immediately jumps on top of Taxiivation, and goes for that gauntlet recovery to secure the knockout. So once again, final stock scenario. Keith with the sword in hand. He's been winning in this position every time thus far. Can Taxiivation bring things back?
Yeah, we're seeing Taxiivation playing very aerially based, even on the spear here, going for a lot of nairs to try to disrupt Keith, stacking on top with those down airs, and so far it's been working into moderate success, but with the gauntlets now online, getting a nice little conversion there, downlight into sidelight for some nice damage. Taxiivation juggling the weapons, really trying to make this movement work. Side air sends off stage, terrible spot to be in, avoids the side air, able to get back, but gets clipped by a recovery. On the way, a sidelight, but no conversion off of it, and they're back to center stage, both of them. Not in a great spot for sure as Keith pushes Taxiivation in the corner, but man, this is close. Sidelight into recovery, closes it out. The gauntlets took over in that last stock.
Yeah, and we like to see a good adaptation happen there. Granted, still extremely close game. Came down to the wire, came the last stock, kind of last couple hits-ish. I will say that towards the end of that, though, Taxiivation did have a decent chunk more damage wrapped up onto Keith, but it was still a close game, all things considered. He was just having a really tough time landing, and Taxiivation just completely capitalized on that situation. So good stuff there, because it looked like he was kind of having a bit of a rougher time finding those knockouts with the gauntlets before, but now we're going to have a change of scenery. We're going to Miami Dome.
Yeah, absolutely. Bigger stage and more soft platforms definitely will help out. I mean, some soft platforms at that. Two tall ones make it, I think, equally beneficial for both players, but especially Taxiivation, who's been getting called out a lot from getting those getting hit with like sidelight into down airs. Now you have somewhere to retreat to when you get hit by these sword moves. So we'll see how this one turns out here, as Taxiivation starting off with a great start here, but going really deep with that down air, and we see Keith trying to line up a ground pound there, realizing maybe just to go for the safe option, picks up some gauntlets now, but Taxiivation gauntlets are looking great right now. Weapon toss downwards, trying to extend the combo, didn't find it there though.
And there we go. We see Keith trying to find his way around here, gets caught by the second hit of sidelight. That's a really tough scenario. The recovery's gonna be enough from the top of the stage, and Taxiivation blitzes his way into the lead here. We're gonna see if Keith can bring it back, but so far he hasn't actually proven to us that he's able to handle playing from behind yet. We just haven't seen a whole lot of that scenario. So let's see how he manages to finesse here in this game 3.
Yeah, I think leaving the stage open with the soft platforms versus spear can definitely be scary. We saw there the recovery into the chase on up recovery. Slide off N-Sig there, the piece of slice, but I didn't get it. Down air once again, catching Taxiivation, trying to jump back to center stage. A classic Keith option in this matchup so far, but you need to see less of the down airs and more of some bigger damage options. N-Sig calls out the jump there.
Okay, Keith, what are you gonna be able to do here? Needs to get this stock now before he gets lapped. Already in the orange on his second stock. Taxiivation doing such a good job of adding up all this extra damage. There's a hit for Keith, and that could have been a bigger punish. He goes for the side light. Had that been a D light, that probably would have been the stock, but now Keith has to find another opening.
Absolutely, recovery sends high there, and Keith kind of holding this ground, realizing that Taxiivation is not really going to be looking to approach too much. As I say that, going for a side light gets punished with a side air immediately. I wonder if I'm going to cast a curse Tax here. Okay, able to get back. Good spot to be in. Keith trying to flip the situation, but Tax is the one to flip it. Down light into side air sends Keith off stage. Trying to line up an option to close out that edge guard. Keith going deep with the ground pound. A full Hail Mary option, and it gets punished appropriately. Weapon toss into down air on the spear, and this game looks all but over for Keith. We'll see if he can make a comeback happen, but Taxiivation playing very, very well so far on Miami Dome.
Yeah, you can just see the confidence from Taxiivation just completely going up into the upper echelons of what it can be. I mean, just starting that entire reversal from a unarmed D-Light, picks up the weapon, goes for a D-Light in the other direction with the spear to then turn Keith off stage, and it leads to this whole conversion where he ends up getting the stock off on the right side. I mean, it's hard to try to make a comeback when you're getting cooked like that, right? Especially after the way you lost your first stock, getting knocked out on the top of the blast center, relatively early damage range. Now, things are just falling apart. You can see, like, Taxiivation is just kind of doing what he wants.
Yeah, it's looking real tough for Keith to find anything. Great feint there, looking to line up a side air, but instead jumping back, GC downlight to cover the wall, or sorry, down sig to cover the wall. Really clean stuff from Taxiivation, and all in all, just a really great showing on the Miami Dome. I think the soft platform that enabled the really early KO off the top with the recovery, chase on recovery on spear made it so much harder for Keith to get back in the game, and Taxiivation played flawlessly. I mean, look at that reversal on the replay, so clean.
Yeah, no, that was insane. That was dope, right? And I love conversions like that in particular because they start off with like situational awareness. That's not just something you can do all the time. The weapon has to spawn right there in that particular spot of the stage, and you have to think, how can I cook with this? And he just absolutely made a meal. That was great.
Yeah, that second stock reversal, or was it the first stock reversal where he went for the GC downlight off stage to flip it, picks up a spear, downlight sider to close out the stock. It's just so clean from Taxiivation, and that's more of what I want to see on the spear. You know, definitely the gauntlets are paying out really well here, but also the spear as a reversal option, as a way to kind of create some space between, makes it a lot better for Taxiivation here, especially back on Miami Dome. We'll see how Keith is able to mix it up here and maybe close the difference. But right now, the soft platform for Taxiivation looks like his home right now. He's like, I don't really need to leave it when I'm on the spear.
Yeah, and I think, you know, maybe it was just a way to kind of bait to be able to go ahead and grab these gauntlets now, or maybe he's understanding that Keith doesn't know how to approach. Is that what the angle is here? Either way, Taxiivation throwing out a couple hitboxes here, getting these sidelights into the delayed recovery to go ahead and catch the upward dodges from Keith. Keith, though, trying to answer back here, playing a little bit of parry, but looks like Keith gets the upper end here. And are we going to side sig? No, he's going to threaten it, and then Taxiivation's going to call him out on that bluff and just goes right onto the stage and hits him.
Oh, nice. What a ground pound. Easy tap in for Taxiivation there. He's able to just find that ground pound on the dodge. I feel like every gauntlet player has felt that ground pound in their soul. They realize that's a lost stock for Keith.
Yeah, Keith's kind of crumbling a little bit here, right? I mean, Taxiivation seemingly so confident now. Keith looked so good in that first game and even that second game up until the last stock. But now, look at these conversions from Taxiivation. Keith, so easy to read for him.
I mean, even fighting unarmed, realizing like I have such a great lead, I can risk going off stage for maybe a cheesy KO. If not, I'm able to really be strong here. Going for the slide off side sig to call out Keith crossing up. Didn't find it, but you have so much of a lead here. You're willing to make these bigger risks because you just have so much control over this match. Weapon toss into the unarmed recovery. Taxiivation playing so clean right now. Another recovery sends Keith disarmed and above the stage. I don't even know how you get back in this one. This is just complete dominance from Taxiivation right now.
Okay, is finally going to lose that first stock. But Taxiivation kind of playing with his food toward the end of that. I mean, at this point, just needs a D-light recovery, even a straw unarmed recovery. I'm sure we'll do it. Go for a ground pound here. That'll KO, and that's exactly what we're going to see. Looks like Keith just wasn't keeping his eyes open for that option. And so that's going to go ahead and give Taxiivation another lead yet again.
It's so funny, like the classic, like once spear players realize they can jump ground pound in center stage and find KOs, it's over for everybody, and Taxiivation just unlocked that in this matchup. So now Keith having to worry about one more thing versus the spear, especially on a stage like this with these soft platforms. And Keith realizing, like, yeah, the soft platforms will help me here, but I can't really get any initiative off of it. So he's kind of jumping on it and then dropping through, trying to bait Taxiivation to shark underneath it. It's been working to moderate success in this stock. You like to see little adaptations like that. I mean, if you leave the stage open after you just lost on it, you hope to see some of those changes here.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, no, I have to agree, man. I mean, at this point, you know, you're one stock away from having a spot in the grand finals. KeithThePooPoo trying to change it. He gets the recovery there, but he did get the touch regardless. And so now that means Tax is gonna be back, and he's looking to tax even more here. Oh, Arvada, I guess.
I was like, man, he's going to go for the ground pound there, but instead he goes for the down air, a little bit of a safer option. Sidelight into NSIG, doesn't find the connection. That SIG was nerfed, if I'm not mistaken, and that's the side SIG GC to close it out there for Taxiivation. Really clean game number 3 and 4. I mean, he just took over the games.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to give it up, right? Like Taxiivation had me a little bit scared when we saw games 1 and even good chunk of game 2, and then completely just said, you know what? Yeah, I think it's time for me to